Hello and welcome back to a special edition of Modern Jubilees. We got a fun question, and we love fun and we love questions here on Modern Jubilees. And this fun question was about, if someone were to move to Israel, where should they move to? Meaning, should people be going to their historical plot according to their tribe? Or should people be going there according to some other thing? So in order to talk about the land itself, which is a great thing to discuss, here we are on Google Earth. Let's zoom in on Israel and talk about it. So first of all, Israel is considered the navel, the belly button of the world. In Jubilees, it has been historically considered a meeting point. It is the meeting point between the plots of Japheth, the plot of Shem, and the plot of Ham here in Israel. Now, what we see as Israel and Jordan was British Mandate Palestine that was owned by the British, and then they divided up. They gave one state for the Arabs and one state for the Jews, and that's how we get Israel. This is a map that shows from around 1200 BCE, according to the book of Joshua, the plots of the tribes were divided up from Dan to Beersheba. Right, this is a really important map to look at here. This shows us the topography of the land, and here we see that the mountain range, this is the Jerusalem Mountains. Jerusalem is Mount Zion. Mount Zion is talked about throughout the texts, Jubilees, the Bible, the ancient texts. Mount Zion was a very important mountain. It's important to God. It's one of God's 4 holy places. And Mount Sinai is in the center of the desert, belongs to the Arabs, actually, whereas the other 2 holy places, one is in Ethiopia, the Garden of Eden, and one is in the Far East, around Mount Kailash, around the Himalayas, and that is the mountain of the East. But Mount Zion is this mountain here, and this is the mountain of Jerusalem. Forget these red lines, but this is the mountain of Jerusalem right here. And essentially what is known as the West Bank is a terrible misnomer, because West Bank implies that it's west of what's actually the most important thing, which is actually a desert that's not the focal point. Here we have all this green. This is the Holy Land. This is a blessed land that God gives to the nation of Israel in the Bible. But the center of this land is the Jerusalem Mountains right here. It would be good to note that the Islamic Empire stretched in these very far lands. At one point, it included the lands of Israel, and so because at one point it included the lands of Israel, this is why many Muslims refuse to accept the idea that Israel should be ruled by its historic indigenous population, the Jewish people, the Israelites, and instead they believe that since it was part of a Muslim empire at one point, it should be conquered and should be part of a Muslim empire once again. And that is really the core of the conflict. So here we see the different tribes and where they all belonged. And let's say you know you're from Judah. Does this mean that you need to live in Hebron or Beersheba or Jerusalem? No, it doesn't. If you want to live in Israel, you can live anywhere. Right now, the majority of the Jewish people living in Israel are from the Judean exile. And so we are from the children of Judah, and we ruled in the area of Jerusalem, and then were kicked out by the Romans. And the bulk of the tribes, the 10 tribes, were mostly removed from the land by the Assyrians. They were conquered and then displaced and taken to the east. And the bulk of the 10 tribes are the Pashtuns of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and part of India. Radical Islamist people at one point started to pick off all of the Pashtun leaders so that they would eventually sort of forget all of their traditions and their Pashtun Wali, which is Mosaic law, and instead accept Islam as more and more and more important, until the point where now some people don't even know their identities, but there are many tribes among them, and there are other tribes that also associate with the 10 tribes, but the bulk is very clearly the Pashtuns, which number in the tens of millions. All right, so those are the 10 tribes. And because we don't have the 10 tribes right now, we need to actually settle the whole land. We need to settle the land, and there's no Inyan, there's no thing that you should only settle in the lands that were associated with you. What you can do is learn about these different tribes and what makes them unique. And by the way, of course, Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh settle in what is today's Jordan, which was across the Jordan River. And this is not part of proper Israel. This is part of greater Israel. Proper Israel does include Gaza, by the way. Just this map has it set to 1200 BC, when there were some Philistines still living in the land before they were removed by the Babylonians, and they never returned as Philistines, the Philistine entity, the Philistine identity ceased to exist and did not return until the modern Palestinian movement, which is not really associated with the ancient Philistines, maybe some people, but that's a different conversation that we cover in different videos. So yeah, there's a lot to learn about the different tribes, but we're not settling in Jordan. We're settling only in proper Israel, not in Greater Israel. Greater Israel includes all the allies of Israel, a greater area, which is where Solomon's kingdom went. Solomon's kingdom's boundaries are the Greater Israel boundaries. There were other kings living in these areas, but they all deferred to Solomon as the one who was guaranteeing people's protection, meaning he was the king of the kings of that area. There was an allyship between the peoples, and so that's considered Greater Israel as a great thing. People wanted to be a part of Greater Israel. It was a prestigious thing and a wonderful thing. Whereas proper Israel are these boundaries, but then there was a compromise boundary where the border now only goes to where it goes, which is way up from Wadi El Arish. We covered this also in another video. And so this is the area that people were settling in. There is now a straighter line that is made that goes down to the Gulf of Eilat in order to have access from one piece of water to another piece of water. And that is also written about as far back as the Pentateuch, the Torah. So here we see Syria. That's not far. Lebanon is right here. Jordan is right here. Here we get an idea of what we're talking about. Iraq is right here. Across from this is going to be Iran. Here we have Egypt. And this is Saudi Arabia already. So the idea is that you don't settle in today's world based on your tribe, because then if you're from Judah, for example, you would have to be in the Jerusalem, Beersheba area, but then we wouldn't be settling the lands. And it's important to settle the land of Israel in order to gain control of it, which is what God's will is and what our destiny is and what is good for the region, just like it was good when King Solomon had control over the region and brought about a time of great peace. So if we want to look, there are 4 holy cities that are the main holy cities of Israel. There are 4 holy cities. Jerusalem is considered one of them. Hebron is considered one of them. Then we have Tiberias and Tzfat. Tzfat is the city of air. It's on a very high mountain. Tiberias is the city of water. It's by the lake of the Kinneret. Hebron is the city of earth. It's where all of the forefathers and foremothers are buried. And Jerusalem is the city of fire. And fire symbolizes transformation and spirituality. And those are the 4 holy cities. However, Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, very much stressed how important it is to settle also the Negev, the southern part of Israel, which is a desert. So if you can stand it, there is a desert region here. Dimona is Black Hebrews from America, largely. There's many different types of people. Beersheba is the ancient city that Abraham established. And so it's desert region in the south. And Beersheba is a major place where you have university. Mitzpe Ramon, where you have this giant crater, also has a beautiful community. The community in the south is very, very nice. As we move forward, we get to Hebron. This is already considered Judea. Judea is south of Jerusalem. Samaria is the north, the Shomron. So in Judea, we have Hebron in the Hebron Hills. Whereas on the coast, you have Ashdod, Ashkelon, Rishon, and then Tel Aviv. So the coastal areas has better weather, you might say. It's warmer and it's flatter. People bike and get around like that all the time. The Gaza envelope, well, of course, there's issues there right now until Gaza is naturalized. But that, as you see here, was well settled. But right now it's a little bit difficult there. You have these cities. Tel Aviv is a major, major city. You have big buildings, you have high-tech industry, you have pretty much everything, and then there's all these suburbs around it. Jerusalem is a holy city. There's a lot of Torah study. Of course, everywhere in Israel there's Torah study, but Jerusalem has a beautiful mix of cultures. However, depending on where you're coming from, Jerusalem can also be really intense because it's the place where you feel the conflict the most, because there is more polarization. People are more religious. For the most part, the Muslims are in their area, the Christians are in their area, the Jews are in their area. People come to the Jewish areas all the time. People feel comfortable to go to different areas sometimes. But in general, there's a bit of division, whereas as we move towards the north, Haifa is an extremely multicultural city. So it's a major city, but it's extremely multicultural. There are Druze. This whole mountain here is settled by Druze. There are Arabs and Christians, and people get along very well. There are kibbutzim, left-wing Jews, more religious settlements and Jews, but for the most part, not as religious. And then as you get closer to Tel Aviv, there are people who are living there as an extended suburb of Tel Aviv because there's a train, a rail that goes all the way here. And so people go back and forth to work. But in the north, there is an incredible amount of coexistence that is found. People go to the same schools. I mean, everywhere in Israel, people can go to the same schools. In Jerusalem, there are places where people go to the same schools. But in the north, it's so integrated. Buses and trains and schools and work, like people work together, people know each other, people live among one another, people know their neighbors, and the settlements are like one on top of the other. The Arab settlements, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, they're all on top of the other. So it's mixed up and it's very nice. It's calm, much more calmer and slower paced. And then people also settle in the Golan now, and that is also very beautiful. The higher up you go, the more it is lush. You have waterfalls. It's very beautiful. Whereas once you get to the mountainous region, because we said that Samaria and Judea are a mountain range with Jerusalem in the center, this is basically Greater Mount Zion. This is the Mount Zion Ridge, which is all a part of Jerusalem, which is part of the ancient land of Israel. And it is the heart, the very heart of the land of Israel is this mountain range of the Mount Zion range, which was promised to the Israelites very clearly in all of the ancient texts. But of course, if you are a Jewish person and you want to live in Samaria, there are amazing settlements that you can go live there. There are only a few where people are more, really combative with the neighbors kind of thing. But for the very most part, it's just wonderful people in Judea and Samaria settling the land. There is a University of Ariel. Here we go, Ariel. There's a university there, and so it's not so far from Ramallah, which is considered the capital of the Arab presence of Judea and Samaria. But this is very much a mountain range, and it is less safe to an extent, but that's when it comes down to your ideology. So depending on your ideology is where you will settle, what you're looking for, where your work is, where your family is. These are the things that are most important. If you have none of the above, Jerusalem is a great place to start, but any of the 4 holy cities are really a great place to travel to and to learn about. You have just amazing places all over the country and amazing people from all the different religions and cultures all around the country. And so if you have no idea where you want to go, but you want to go, travel around, meet people, talk to people, and see what you're really looking for, there are places to study Torah in Jerusalem and other places, and that is a good place to start if you aren't sure where to start in the Holy Land. Wishing you a great time, wishing you blessings of great success in finding your place in the Holy Land for you and your family, and the best future for you. You, as a child of Israel, have every right to settle in the land that was set apart for the Israelites. This is the homeland. This is where we belong. God pushed us out of Europe. God pushed us out of all of the Muslim countries. God pushed us out of everywhere at the same time, just as the prophecies had foretold, brought us from the 4 corners of the world back to the land of Israel. And so it is there for you. The land is your oyster. And that's that. Let us know if you have any questions or comments about the different beautiful places throughout the wonderful, beautiful Holy Land. In the north, Mount Hermon, people go there to go skiing. There's so much to see and so much to do in the beautiful Holy Land. Also, there's the Dead Sea, by the way, not to miss that. That is a very, very special place, the lowest place on earth. So it's also desert. You see the beige here. This is the desert area, desert region, and there are kibbutzim, there are settlements here. But there's a lot going on, so it would be about finding your place and not about the tribe that you belong to, because we only have a few of the tribes that have returned so far from the long, long exile of 2,000 years that we just went through. All right, wishing you all the best. Many blessings. Thank you for watching and for listening. This is Modern Jubilees, and we'll see you next time.